3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GrokTALK.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com.
GrokTALK.
All right, this is GrokTALK here in Concord, New Hampshire, waiting for the freezing rain to come and screw up the roads, but we're not going anywhere for a couple more hours, so that's fine with us until we have to leave and everything gets slippery and dangerous and we risk our lives driving home. But hey, we love you guys, so we're here at threat to our own mortal bodies.
Aren't you laying that on just a tad?
Very thick, very thick.
Yes, he is.
Thick. I'm just,
at a
I'm
risk to
trying
our
to
own.
be.
Well, Skip's definitely here at risk to his own mortal body, but we're here for the immortal greater good.
That's right, and
not as defined by
we
liberals.
try to think of a different way to bring in this segment. Of course, we want you to listen to us on Stitcher, iTunes, Spreaker, iHeart, and TuneIn. We want you to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. We do the occasional Twitter update from time to time during the course of the show, and of course, there is the podcast, which will be broken up into segments and put up on GrokTALK.com throughout the week, so you can certainly listen to the segments and the parts that get interrupted by the ads on Ustream, which we apologize for, but you could fix if you donate today.
And of which we do want to say thank you for certainly one donation in particular, which was Alvin C., who the headset is over there.
In the box.
I need another part for that soundboard over there, then we can lash that one to this one and add that to there, and we can have yet another person.
And Steve will be doing his weekly imitation of Keith Emerson.
That's right.
along with rock organ music for Skip.
I got to go find some more because we only have one right now. Quick thank you to Guy for calling in, and of course Susan Olson, who we just spoke to, coming up, calling in. Hopefully we didn't cross wires. Dennis Michael Lynch, the entrepreneur and documentary filmmaker. Dr. Jeffrey Singer, who was on the show last November, going to talk to us about electronic health records. Mark Meckler, co-founder of Tea Party Patriots, has a new group, and we will be talking to him about things related to the grassroots and politics and so on and so forth. And, of course, hopefully Ted Cruz will get off the plane in time, and we'll have him on the line by 11:30 to complete out the program. But we have Jane with us right now, and we're going to talk about some right-to-life issues and wherever the conversation takes us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
So we have a ton of information, and I really wanted to try to get some of that information out. For those that might not know, I jumped on New Hampshire Right to Life in November and have been spending the last few months trying to get up to snuff with the organization. It's the oldest pro-life advocacy group in the state of New Hampshire, incorporated in 1973, and still here. And we're really trying...
Since ground zero.
Yeah, you know. We're trying to really make sure that the organization, we're working on infrastructure and we're working on growing programming that is out in the community. So there's a lot of neat stuff that has come up in the past couple of months, and I want to try to get some information out there.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so we have a new office, and our new office is at 8 North Main Street.
It's great space. Let me tell you, it's I can see it from here.
Almost, yes. You
Right
know
to
what? Nobody really knows how funny that is, but yes, it's a nice office space that has a beautiful window opening to the sidewalks. Mm-hmm. So there's great visibility for New Hampshire Right to Life, and we have a place now when people from out of state, from other life organizations come into town, we can meet with them.
It's good room in there, yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful room, and we have a lot of great programming coming up where we can bring folks into the office to have meetings. So we have an open house at 8 North Main Street at our new office space on May 2nd at 9 o'clock. And we're going to have some goodies there and just introduce the new things that are coming up. So everybody come on up and see us at New Hampshire Right to Life at 8 North Main Street, Suite 1A. One of the things that I've taken on, you know, the whole thing of coming from political world into running an advocacy group, and with the few years that I've had, I haven't been like you guys in the activist trail. You know, what am I, 3.5 years, 4 years into this? it's been really eye-opening to see the different dynamic in the two, because while I certainly stand by legislation, life legislation, family legislation in the House, as the president of NHRTL, it's a whole different way of looking at things. And my thought was, for life issues, we are making, even though the left will tell you that we're not making any strides, life is making strides. The idea of life at conception, personhood, we're making strides. And the leftists don't like that so much. So the message really has been soft-pedaled. And I think that as an advocacy group, we have to grow that base. We have to be in our communities. We have to be talking about life in a way that is not combative, that in a way that's not political, that's just common sense. That's just good old common sense. And let's talk about this stuff in a way that tries to pull the political side out of it. So I'm sitting here trying to find a way to get that bridge built. And I've come up with an initiative called CHAMP, which is Changing Hearts and Minds Project. And we've just begun. I sort of had to build the infrastructure for this initiative. But it's going to be a county initiative. We're 10 counties here in New Hampshire where small groups this year will get together to talk about their county and their community issues with regard to life, with getting the message out. So we have our first Luncheons for Life, which is a CHAMP initiative coming up on May 31st. That's going to be it's going to be at Windsor Terrace, actually, in Hooksett. And I will be getting in contact with about 25 people from from Merrimack County. I have Belknap on the brain because I'm working on that for next month, the month after that. But our first event is May 31st in the Merrimack County, and I'm going to be speaking with some folks that will be able to jump on the train with us and help us put the initiatives into communities in Merrimack County that will further this dialogue. In 1 year, my hope is that we have good, working, solid working relationships with all 10 counties, and that in the second phase of CHAMP, we have coordinators that come out of those small groups that we have built that will stand and work with New Hampshire Right to Life in a more advocacy, perhaps legislation, taking up more the political side of what we're doing. But to have a coordinator come out of that natural group to lead each county. So it's a tiered plan. But the first tier is coming at the end of May. And for people that come to the open house on May 2nd, my hope is that we can talk to some folks, some new blood, some new ideas, get some people that really have maybe some passion here but haven't known what to do with it with regard to life, the life issue, and have them sign up.
It sounds like you've got a roadmap already laid out, which is good. My only question, there's certainly too many things going off in my head all at once.
Sure.
Situation normal for me. You mentioned that there's a lot of things to be overcome, and certainly the one thing that immediately popped into my head was the redefinition of our language, where they try to say it's not a baby.
Right.
In fact, we've got and a perfect example on Granite Rocket a lot of times with Hunter Dan, aka Balicentro, or he's got a couple of other handles that he uses in the comments section. He's always saying, well, it's only a zygote, dropping back to the biological verbiage. It's only a massive tissue.
Well, exactly.
And,
the liberals always claimed it was just a lump of cells because until you could show it to them that was a living, kicking baby.
Well, it doesn't even matter. Without that lump of cells, there is no next step. You can't.
No. But they like to believe in the fiction that it was a lump of cells for an extended period of time, so they could objectify it and get rid of it.
Well, do you know why we discuss it? And it's a great point because, of course, that's the beginning of everything, right? That's the first tier you have to go through. What's life at conception? But when you look at the documents, any scientific community, any physician, anything, will tell you that once fertilization has happened, it's a living entity.
It is, and I remember studying that all the time. My major was biology as an undergrad, so and my specialization was subcellular respiration. How is energy transformed around the cell and through the different parts of it? And you're right. But they try to denigrate that because they say, well, it's not a baby until it's self-sustaining. Well, I got news for you. You can actually birth a baby, and if you don't take care of it then, it's not self-sustaining.
Right.
So the whole argument just goes away. But they're constantly trying to shift
Yes.
that argument. So what are you guys doing trying to say
To
it
take
is
that
a
back.
baby? To
Absolutely.
take that, to basically, you folks have to soften it and make
That's
it that
right.
cuddly baby, even if it's still inside the
And
womb.
there it is. And we don't have to work very hard to do this. That's the good news. We've just been off message. We've been, in my opinion, and I'm new to the game, I agree with that. In my opinion, we have not been talking about this in a nuts and bolts, like you said, a warm, fuzzy way. We fight the battle in a verbiage that does not help us get to what the seed of this is, and that is most people agree. A high percentage of folks, when you ask them, do believe in the concept of life at conception. We have to start there. We can't jump from that and then, go to the next section, which is then, of course, the choice debate. We've got to cement life at conception. Youth in this country are changing. And you know how we know this? Because not only are we growing on campus, students for life are growing all over the United States, but abortion clinics, 73 clinics have closed in this country in the last year. 73.
And it's a growing number and a nice acceleration. And there are more places that are help centers for young women.
Correct. Which help them with a
like,
choice.
Like CareNet, for example.
Wonderful.
And we need to go do a live show from CareNet at some point just to get that message out a little more.
They do such great work.
They do.
But here's the irony of it. So while that's happening, and of course the left that controls the message of, women's rights, women's health care rights, which is a lot of hooey, and women have to be the ones to stand up and say, hey, stop that, because that's a nonsensical argument. But the truth is the subsidizing of abortion is going up. And nobody is answering why that's happening. It's happening because the leftists, the progressives that want to support abortion on demand, are seeing the numbers go down. And because of that, abortion clinics are having more financial issues. And so what are they doing? They're upping the taxpayer portions, especially to Planned Parenthood,
Of course.
to give them bigger subsidy. Okay? But that's, as terrible as that is, and you know me, no one will fight harder keeping public money out of private business. You don't even have to talk abortion for that for me. That's a no-brainer. Do not subsidize public businesses. What are we doing? But
that includes all the public businesses.
That includes
energy
all.
companies, all that crap. We shouldn't be giving them money.
Hey, I agree totally. I agree 100% with that. But I just think it's an interesting note, isn't it, that we're growing the subsidy because the demand is going down. But why is the demand? Because we are making ground, and they don't want anyone to know it.
Now, isn't there two things at play here? When I look at the pro-life and you look at the marriage, you're seeing really what I call a selfish generation or a selfish overlay on top of society, because you've always heard, well, it's a woman's body. Well, it's not. Once you've made that decision, and I guess I will make the distinction between incest and rape, but generally you've made a decision one way or the other to make a baby.
Right.
That's what happens. If you perform that act that can result in it, that's your responsibility. But the selfishness comes into, well, it's my body, and that's what we hear from the left.
Right.
We also see the same thing with marriage, that, okay, I'll marry, but if I'm not going to get out of the marriage what I need or what I want, then I'm just going to leave. And it's always about me. It's not about the baby. It's not about your spouse. It's not about us. It's me. And I think part of that is again, another part of the problem that you have to look at. But, you say that the young people are being pro-life. I think the message is resonating, but isn't it also part and parcel in that we're teaching our kids in school not to think, but to emote? And could that be part of why you're seeing, the cuddly little baby? The emotional side is being brought out more than the let's think about this kind of deal, because the left wants you to emote.
Sure.
They don't want you to think. They
Right.
want you to emote.
I think that the double-edged sword for the left has been that while they want to, like you said, keep people thinking on a very sheer level, very thin level, no real deep thought, right? Emote, whatever you might believe in, any kind of stand you want to take. Scientific practices have gotten to the point where questions are being made now by youth as to, for instance, viability, right? I mean, when we start seeing that babies are being saved earlier and earlier and earlier, right? Because don't forget, partial birth abortion in this country is still by far something that most Americans will say no to. Okay, they will say that. They will stand by that. That's why they don't talk about it on the left too much, right? Well, take that and then just move it down the road a little bit when you're talking about, quote, viability, which I don't like to talk about. I think that if you're 100% life, which I am, 100%, even in exceptions, because the baby is still an entity.
Correct.
No matter how that baby was made. There's two. There's mom and there's the baby, and the pregnancy is 9 months, but abortion is forever. I mean, so to me, it's 100%. But once we start divvying up viability issues, when is that baby viable? We're shooting ourselves in the foot.
Well, again, that's where you're falling into the arguments of the left, because there's even bioethicists, and I shudder at the title, because there are some bioethicists who believe it is ethical that even after a normal, healthy birth, that if the parents don't want the child, kill it.
Right.
See,
And it goes hand in, hold on, and it goes hand in hand of what we're seeing at the other end.
That's right.
Of eugenics, and you look at what's going on in Belgium.
Yeah.
And some other European countries. I want to die, period.
Which, Buzz Lightyear is bringing to, a medical facility near you. Buzz Lightyear would be Ezekiel Emanuel, by the way. He of the quality-adjusted life years.
Yeah. Wait till he gets there.
Or you don't count because you're too old.
Yeah.
But, bioethicists was what got me ready to talk there, Skip. Generally speaking, bioethicists are professors in liberal institutions with a liberal mindset, and their job seems to be entirely to craft fancy theses justifying why this kind of killing, abortion, euthanasia, whatever, is justified. Right. Not in fact looking at the true morality of the situation. It's a bit like the people that justify excuses for war to presidents for going around Congress.
Well, I think you're right about that. I think that the morality, which can always have that kind of slippery word to it, right? Because then everybody says, well, what's your definition of morality? How about we make a definition that life is important and that we shouldn't have caveats as to what portion of life we will keep alive and which are expendable. And once we start going down that slippery slope, that's a very bad place for public policy to be, because we're all going to be at some end of that scope. And, let's face it, at end of life, the memes of the political left want to be able to have euthanasia because these people aren't paying into the system anymore, or they drain the system, health benefit or whatever you're talking about. That's where it started, right? They don't bring anything to the table. Let's just let them go.
And their economic policies certainly don't allow them to accumulate the kind of wealth necessary to be able to support themselves. So
right.
Naturally, when they get to a point where they're too much of a burden, they cut them loose.
That's right. That's where we are. But see, that's CHAMP. That's changing hearts and minds. Politically speaking, we're trying to jump the shark to get a political result without having done any of the stuff that needs to get done underneath. And that's where we think we can make the biggest impact, is by getting person to person. The Women's Expo, I was at the Women's Expo last week, I think.
It was last week, yes.
Last week, yes. I was there for pretty much the whole time, standing in front of our table, giving out life stickers and talking to folks. We did not have a 15-minute segment of time where that table was not busy. Good. Now, how do you figure that out? We gave out about 700 life stickers at that event. And we had some nasty people that, almost slapped me about how you're taking away my rights kind of thing. And I said, you know what? We're not. We're giving more rights. We're supporting everybody's right. We're not taking away your rights.
And again, they're saying that because they don't believe that the baby inside of them,
Right.
or potentially could be, really is a life separate
In
from
itself.
the mother's.
You're taking away their presumed right to sex without consequence.
Well, that too. I don't
Yeah.
think that they even think of it at that level, but yeah,
They
you're
don't
right.
know because they haven't gone that. They're too shallow. For
Right,
that.
right.
It goes back to the shallow thinking.
Yeah, it
That-
does go back to that.
It's about me, because that's what the left wants
And
them
you
to
can't
think.
even blame them. I mean, I'm sorry, Skip. You know what? I've lived through that generation. I probably was the last one that had thoughtful, I had a good education, and when I was going through high school and college, I don't recall being so overwhelmed by a progressive viewpoint. I was still very conservative and had no real big deal about that, right? Of course, I know that the engine was running, but now we're in a different we're in hyperspace now, where you take away everything to serve the good of progressivism, right? Everything that you can. But we're going to be playing in that same discussion in a very negative way if we don't change the message. If we've got to stop feeding that, and we've got to start educating people in a very personal way, one-to-one if it takes one-to-one. That's fine with me. And try to change how they think about these things. And life is something that everybody, whether or not they discuss it or not, there's a visceral impact with that. And I just think that it's a good way to change hearts and minds. Maybe bring not, quote, morality, because, that sounds, when you say morality, I always sort of think like people are going to judge. But how about a common sense to the human condition?
Well, see, that's where I'm not sure that I would use common sense, to be honest with you, because we're hearing common sense used by both sides, but a lot of it on the progressives, and they say common sense. You need to agree with me.
Yeah, okay.
Versus letting you
Think
make
for
up
yourself.
your own mind. And they never tell you what common sense means.
Right.
and this is the thing that we have to attack, and I am going to use the word attack. We have to attack their use of the language. What do you mean by that? And then usually when they see that somebody's really sharp and coming after that, they're going to go walk away mumbling.
Absolutely, they
and then
do.
later on they'll grumble because they don't have the argument. They haven't thought that through.
Right. But when you start to show that lack of ability to respond, if you're doing this in the expo, for instance, we had there was a couple of people that came from they had the pink shirts on from Planned Parenthood as they came by the table, and they had gone by like 5 times, and I think that they were really surprised that we were consistently having a lot of people there. You wouldn't have believed the stories. I could not believe the stories that people came to the table with. I was just blew my mind, but. While we were sitting there talking to a woman who had a baby at 51 years old, where she went through a series of doctors that told her that she needed to abort this baby, that this baby was not going to be healthy. She's too old. She would be too old when the baby grew up. I mean, they tried everything. And she was a Hispanic woman. God bless her. There was like a 20-year door from the last baby to this baby. And she held her ground, and she had a fine pregnancy, and she was crying, saying, I came close to believing what they were saying, and I thank God I didn't do it. And I said, we were there. Well, a couple of those people were around that woman when she was talking to me, and they were young girls, 20s. And when I came back out from the table, because she had sort of moved in from the table, I was the person out in the group, right out in the field. And when I was speaking to this woman, we had kind of gone back to the quiet part of the table. But when I went back out to try to engage those girls who were standing there listening to what this woman was saying, they left. They walked away. I didn't even have time to try to engage them. So you're absolutely right. We've got to change hearts and minds. But I think it's such a personal thing. We've got to talk about it in public. We've got to be upbeat about it. We've got to be hopeful about it and tell the truth. It matters, because I believe those 2 girls walked away, even though they didn't discuss anything. I saw their faces. And you know what? They couldn't address it. They couldn't talk about it. They couldn't address it. Why?
Because when it gets absolutely individualistic and personal, it forces them to look inside of themselves. It's one thing when you're in with a group, I think, of the pro-abortion folks, and they're acting as a group. You get that group mentality. But really, when it comes down to it, it is about you.
It
And
is.
it's not in the selfish part.
No, you're
but
right.
It's in you and thinking things through, trying to get them to see things, get beyond the shallow stuff.
Yeah.
What does this really mean deep down?
As a person, what does it mean to me as a person even? And it starts thinking. I think it's I think this organization, for me personally, has taught me so much about the human being. And I'm so grateful for that, because I don't know that I would have seen this in such depth if I had not, jumped onto New Hampshire Right to Life. And what a worthy thing, because it doesn't just stop at life, right? Once you start somebody thinking in a subject that goes off the track from where they've been programmed to think, I think you have openings all over the place to try to change minds on a number of different things.
Well, if you're not thinking, you're dying. It's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Because once you get locked into a rigid framework, if you haven't thought these things through, and I even struggle now, with the libertarian leanings that I have acquired since starting the political process, and certainly somebody that we talked to last week, Ian Underwood, still makes my head hurt. Because when you start thinking about, really when you get down to the very basic meanings of words, okay, you're spouting it. Now, what are you really going to think about it? And that's really the part.
Or do about it.
Or do about it. And I think that's what you have to do in your area as well, is not to get them just to say the words, but to really think about the words and say, now, think about the words, now think about you and the words. And it does make you question sometimes things that you kind of blithely just went, oh, okay, yeah, I believe in that. Now it makes you believe, okay, there's a whole nother few layers of stuff I have to think through. And it can be a very troubling time, and a lot of people don't want to do that because they don't want to question themselves.
And that's why those young ladies walked away when they did. It's very interesting. While we're discussing this, I should let everybody know we have a new website. It's a beautiful website. We have a great gal on our board, a young gal who is our web gal.
You got
and
about 20 seconds.
Yeah, she does a beautiful job. So www.nhrtl.org. I mean, how simple is that? And check out our website. It's beautiful. And, we just had these events okayed last night at the board meeting. They might not be up in the next day or two. Probably a day or two they will be, but might not be right now. But I invite everybody to get in touch with us. If you want to support life in an upbeat way and make a difference in this discussion, please call us, too. We have a number. It's 603-230-8136.
All right, Jane, thank you so much for being on the program. We're going to come back. We're expecting a call from Dennis Michael Lynch, and this is GrokTALK.
Senator Jean Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by saberpac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
We are struggling. Rising healthcare costs are part of the problem. Senator Jean Shaheen helped create this mess we're in. As a state senator, her bill chased 21 insurers out of our state. It reduced our choices, raised prices for New Hampshire families, and when Jean Shaheen supported Obamacare, it limited access to 10 of our 26 hospitals, reducing our choices again. Tell Jean Shaheen she's made healthcare worse. Few things are as important as finding the right doctor. And under Obamacare, that's harder than ever. Over a third of our hospitals no longer available. Our doctors no longer covered. Fewer choices, longer drives. No state has been harder hit than us. And even after watching it impact New Hampshire, Congresswoman Ann Custer still supports it. Call Ann Custer. Tell her Obamacare isn't working for New Hampshire.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.